Hi everyone, my name is Judy Sin and welcome to my consultation. Today I would like to talk about a topic that many buyers find it very daunting, which is the disclosure package. How do you make sense of it and how to read it? You may or may not have received the link, and when you click on it, you usually will see like 20 to 30 folders for a particular address that you're interested in. Hundreds, if not thousands of pages. So what exactly is that? Well, we're going to talk about it. But first of all, there's a really important concept that you have to understand, which I personally really like, is that in California, the rule and regulations actually protects the consumer. Seller actually has the legal obligation to disclose any material fact that would affect the value and the desirability of the house in the form of disclosures. And that is exactly why it is so important to you as a buyer to really understand what they are presenting to you. Of course, me as your buyer agent, I'm going to tell you what I read and what I see as a red flags. However, the responsibility of due diligence is always on the buyers. So you have to understand what you're buying. And to me, I really love disclosure package. I think there's nothing more exciting about having to go over disclosures. Because number one, you know exactly what you're buying. There's no under the table, there's no, oh gosh, I don't know. None of that. Everything is in front of you. If you don't understand and you bought something wrong, it's really your problem. So we're not going to let that happen if you're my buyer. So we're going to go over how to make sense of it. So let's dive in to my screen share. Okay, let's dive in. So our goal today is to quickly evaluate legal and physical condition of a property to determine should we consider it or should we not. So I'm going to share with you my trick of how to do it quickly. On my desktop, this is a sample disclosures of a property that is within an HOA community. It has a wider variety of disclosures, and I think this is a good sample to show you what I would look at for different properties. First of all, nobody would understand and know the history of a property better than the seller. Questions include, what kind of renovations they have put in throughout the years. If somebody passed away in the house, have they claimed insurance, etc. Big issues, problems or issues, or even improvements that outsider is very difficult to get the information. But the seller, of course they would know, like they have lived there for a long time, of course they should know. So the first set of information I looked at are the two disclosures filled out directly by the seller. The first one is called the TDS, Transfer Disclosure Statement. Click onto it, you'll notice it's very straightforward. Basically tells you what comes with the house. Does it have fridge, washer dryer? How old is the roof? Does it have shared fans? Is it within an HOA community, etc.? So first of all, I think you should click onto TDS. Read it a couple times, you quickly get accustomed to it. A lot of it are yes/no questions. The second similar disclosures is called the Seller Property Questionnaire, SPQ. This one have a little bit more information. So my advice to buyer is look for issues money can't solve or issues that you absolutely cannot accept. For example, 6A. Within the past 3 years, are there any death of occupants on site? And if it did, they usually have to disclose the reason of death. So read through it and make sure you're okay. If you're not, then just eliminate that property. Other issues that I think money can't solve include, for example, legal dispute with the neighbor. Are there any encroachment? Private driveway and how they share the cost? Or whether a property has claimed insurance in the past. These are much bigger issues, and I think issues that would impact the value of the house. As a buyer, you want to look for that kind of red flags first. Versus the other set of disclosures, which a lot of buyers find it way easier to understand, is the physical inspection report for the property. These are all done by third parties inspector, and there are usually 3 to 4 types of inspections. The first one is home inspection report. This inspector look for health and safety issues. That's why they would look at the foundation wall, any major cracks, the structure, electrical, plumbing, including, if there's any trip hazard of the house. That's what they're going to look at. The second set is the pest inspection. This inspector look for termite activities, if there's any fungus or dry rot of the exterior, any water damage, water stain on the ceiling, under the sink, etc. One tips I can tell you is pest inspections, they are going to give you an estimate for repairs. And that is a good indication of the physical condition of the house. Because in Lamorinda, a lot of homes are built in the 50s to the 70s. Typically, Section 1 items, which means, items that you should take care of right now. In Lamorinda, usually it costs between $5,000 to $10,000, which is a normal price range. This property, the estimate is $474, which means this property is actually in really good condition. Well, since this property is within HOA and the HOA is responsible for the exterior, including the roof, it did not have roof inspections or sewer lateral inspections, which are also very common for physical inspections on the disclosures. Well, this properties, if you can see, there are some additional supporting documents. For example, they have done some pre-market renovations, right? That explains why the property is in great condition, because they have spent $22,000 preparing the property, including new paint, new carpet, etc. So you see there are a lot of information beyond what you can see on Zillow or Redfin about the properties that you need to know. Natural hazard disclosures. It is really important, as you know, in California there are a lot of hazards, including in East Bay, fire hazard is a really common issue. This property is within a high fire zone, so you might be scared. Is this something we can consider? I would say the answer is yes or no, but as your buyer agent, I would be really careful. So my suggestions is, before we submit an offer, I have a really good insurance broker. I always send the address to the insurance broker and get an estimate of the home insurance and also the annual premiums to figure out how much are the home insurance and whether it's qualified for insurance before we submit an offer, just to make sure there will be no surprises. Because what I said at the beginning, home ownership is beyond your offer price. There are a lot of additional costs that comes with home ownership, and we want to do our due diligence to really understand what we're buying into. So this is natural hazard disclosures, which you can take a look and see what hazard is affecting the subject property. The other information on these disclosures is the tax information, which is interesting. Yeah, it includes hazard and tax. Perfect. So one thing I would look at is Melrose community. Some newer community would include the Melrose tax. It's a 30-year tax that usually ranges from $100 to a couple thousands if, there are more developments required by the government. So I would click on it, and just to make sure there's no surprise charges. So this property does not belong to a Melrose community, which is great. Besides that, as I mentioned, this is an HOA community. So they also have an extra set of HOA documents. I think the most important is, number one, how much is the HOA fees? You can click on the HOA demand and see. It says the HOA fees is $667 per month. And it will tell you what it includes. Like somewhere here, it will tell you what it includes. And for HOA community, if you're getting a mortgage, it's really important to also figure out if the HOA has legal dispute. Are there any ongoing lawsuit of the HOA itself? Any upcoming special assessment, etc. If you're really ready to make an offer, of course, we're going to dive in to the details of this disclosure package. But for now, to glance through these disclosures is enough. And that's what I offer my buyers. I always read and glance through the disclosures before we even see the properties for the first time. I just don't want my buyer to fall in love with a property without understanding the full picture of it. Some properties will have more issues than what you can see beyond the photos and staging on Zillow and Redfin. And this is what I want to tell you. The take-home message is, in California, disclosures package is really important. To look at the properties really only give you 30% of the full picture. 70% lies within the disclosure package, and I'll be happy to walk you through different disclosure package. Okay, thanks for watching.